13 mitigator Ford Fusion. I'd like to thank you for listening to Let's Talk Racing.tv.
Driver of the number 5 Kiker Motorsports Camry. Welcome to Let's Talk Racing TV.
I'm Holly Kimmel with Rockingham Speedway. Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Racing.
I'm Tony Peter, driver of the number 17 Toyota in the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series, and you're listening to Let's Talk Racing.
Hey guys, I'm Daytona 500 winner Trevor Bain, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing.
Hi, this is Dylan Smith. I'd like to thank you for listening to Let's Talk Racing.
Hi, I'm Amber Colvin, and I'd like to thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing.
And none of those people are here tonight.
I tell you, what can I say? Everybody, welcome to Let's Talk Racing. You got Al Pearce and myself getting ready to have some fun.
And this idiot behind me.
And our buddy Tony. I need to do something, either cut his legs off or something, because all you see is the
I can tell you what you can cut off. You can cut his tongue out. That might be helpful. Anyway, I'm back after my brief absence.
Was he giving you a hard time here lately, or
giving everybody a hard time? Claims that the media's starting rumors, which is not true. Claims that we're trying to disrupt his team, which is not true. But anyway, I don't want to give him any more publicity than he's already gotten.
Yeah,
hell, he won Dover and ran good at Pocono, so
yeah,
maybe he's on his way back.
He's not that far out points wise from being in the top 10 again.
Oh, he's way out of the top 10. I think he is.
About 15 points?
Well, he's like 15th or 18th in points.
13th in points, I believe.
Okay, well,
but
whatever it is, it's not enough for me.
Never enough for you. I don't know. What do we have to say about that?
I know he's your hero.
Well,
he's your hero. Face it.
Yeah, I enjoy him. He's got a lot of my qualities in him. That's sort of scary, though.
I hate to hear that.
Well, I used to, believe it or not, when I was going to Richmond out there, and I would meet up with him and with his crew members, I would get all his crew members to sign my pit pass, and then have something else separate for Tony to sign. Each time he did that, he won.
Oh.
Including the first Sprint Cup results and standings. Here we go. But so we missed you for the past couple of weeks here.
Well, I was in Charlotte, and then I was in Dover, and then I was in Pocono.
So what'd you think of the Charlotte race?
I think when Casey Kane did not pit, it kind of put him up against the wall. Oh, he's 13th. Okay, yeah, okay. He was 16th before Pocono, so he's made a little gain.
Yeah, he's 143 points out, 126. So that's what, 17 points.
Well, you can't really figure the 10th place guy because that changes every weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was 16th before Pocono.
Hey, moving up. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, right. Casey Kane should have pitted. When he didn't, everybody else did, and you knew he was dead. He knew he was dead. At Dover, Tony would have finished about third or fourth if Johnson hadn't jumped the restart, and he did. Johnson keeps claiming he didn't. He says, "Look at the film. I didn't jump the start." Or then he says, "Well, and they didn't. They don't enforce it consistently." Well, the one time they enforced it consistently, you got beat. So
Yeah.
Johnson was not happy about that, and he showed him at Pocono last weekend. He went out. He went out with the intent of absolutely killing them,
And
which he did. And then he said, I think we're getting better each weekend. So I think he not only beat them, but he sent a message that they are the team to beat this year. I don't believe you can put anybody. Everybody says Matt Kenseth Mike can beat him. He didn't come close on Sunday. I know Toyota had detuned. I know Toyota was allegedly running more reliability and less power, but that doesn't explain how badly they got beat by the 48 car. So this weekend we'll see what happens if the 48 wins again or if Toyota struggles again. I think the path will become very clear that it's the 48 cars to lose.
Yeah. Well, they said they were going to try to bring it back up to what they had before.
Yeah, and what they had before was breaking, so
Yeah.
you don't know what's going to happen there. So, but Toyota's in trouble right now. They won a bunch of races. They actually won. I think Chevrolet's won 7, Toyota's won 5, and Ford has won 2. I think that's the breakdown. But Toyota, I think, losing those engines at Mikey Waltrip's team and at Joe Gibbs kind of spooked them a little bit.
Yeah.
So they got to get their act together.
I mean, now, did you get any feedback from what the teams were thinking when Toyota says, "Hey, we're going to cut back your horsepower"?
Well, they weren't happy. I mean, drivers are never happy. And I talked to the new Toyota guy. I talked to him on pit road Sunday at Pocono, and he said that we expected to be some pushback. We knew they'd be a little bit hesitant to go our way, but there was no engine trouble on Sunday. They got through the race without any trouble, and even though they weren't the quickest cars there, at least they finished.
Yeah.
And I think that might have eased some of the concerns. If they come back a little bit more this weekend, it'll help. Sears Point is a handling and downforce grip kind of racetrack, so the lack of power for Toyota at Sonoma in 2 weeks will not hurt them a great deal. I think Kentucky will be the bellwether. I think Kentucky will tell them, if we're back, this is what we've got. And, of course, Daytona being a plate race, you don't know what's going to happen there. So I think Kentucky coming up in 3 weeks will be the race that really gives Toyota a better feel for what they've got.
Cool. Good deal. So now, Michigan, you figure they'll be doing the same as that they were before.
Michigan should be a Ford race, although Ford is having some problems this year already. Excuse me. Ford had a big meeting on Monday with its drivers and crew chiefs and owners, and I think the message was, even though it looks like you guys are working together, Penske and Petty and Roush and Wood Brothers and all those teams, even though it looks like you're working together and you say you're working together, it doesn't look to us like you're working together, and we want to see more cooperation. The head of Ford Racing repeatedly said, anytime you bring in a new member to the family, meaning Penske,
right,
you're going to have a little dynamic conflict. You're never going to have a real smooth integration from the outsider to the insider, but we got to have that. We've got to have these teams working better together. So Michigan has traditionally been a Ford track. Roush has always run well there. The Woods have run well there, not lately, but back in the day. And I think it'll be a surprise if a Penske car or a Roush car, or maybe Trevor Bayne, doesn't have a good weekend at Michigan. So after that, they go to Kentucky. They go to Sonoma, where you figure Ambrose is the best road racer on the circuit. So maybe Ford will get a win there at Sonoma. And then they go to Kentucky, and that'll be the first race back with Toyota at full strength. And maybe Kurt Busch, or I'm sorry, maybe Kyle Busch or Matt Kenseth or Denny, one of those guys will win one for Toyota.
Cool. So, what'd you think about the Dover race that we didn't get to hear from you about?
Dover this weekend or last weekend?
Last weekend.
2 weekends ago.
Yeah, coming this weekend would be 2 weekends ago.
Well, we're in the middle of a week, so it was 10 days ago.
Pre-poker.
Johnson had him beat. Johnson led more than half the race, had him easily beat. Restarted bad, and it cost him. Tony would not have won without it. Montoya would not have been in position to even make a run at it had Johnson not messed up. But when Johnson did, it just opened the door. It just took away his advantage. He had been good all day long, and as soon as he messed up, we all thought, well, this is either Tony's going to win one finally, or Montoya's going to get his first oval track win, and he'll be happy about that because Montoya's got 2 NASCAR wins. Neither of them's on an oval track.
Right.
They're both road course wins. He desperately wants to win an oval track race, and we thought maybe Sunday was it, but Tony just rained him down and just blew right by him on the outside.
Reminiscent of Martinsville last year.
Well, yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
You are.
The rule with NASCAR for the restarts, it's the leader of the race is responsible for starting the restart between the 2 lines that they have set up.
In the restart zone, yes.
Right. And if he doesn't go, it is then the flagman's responsibility to start the race.
Right.
So Jimmy Johnson
excuse me,
basically took off, and Juan Pablo hadn't, and the green flag hadn't been thrown either.
Jimmy thought that Juan Pablo had started and then backed off to snooker everybody, which he did. And as soon as Juan Pablo went, Jimmy went, and by the time Montoya lifted, Jimmy was by him so far. He was from here to the next corner from him. And Jimmy said he's slow. I talked to Jimmy about it at Pocono. He said, I slowed down hoping he'd pass me, but he said when he didn't pass me, when I tried to give it back to him, when he wouldn't take it, I figured NASCAR would realize I had tried to give it back and he didn't take it. So then Jimmy said, and I went on, down into turn 1. So, excuse me, it's one of those, it's like an NBA flop. A player runs into another guy and the other guy falls down with just the least a bit of contact, hoping to get the official to call it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In this case, NASCAR called it. They said that you jumped the start and gave him a drive-through penalty. That ruined his day. Johnson still wants clarification on what do we do if the leader sort of begins to go but doesn't really, and you've already got a head of steam, and you back off and try to let him go and he doesn't take it. Jimmy wants some clarification on that. So,
couldn't one of his things been just to let off, tap the brake, whatever, and slide left?
He was already left. He was on the bottom.
I'm down in the safety area.
Well, but he wasn't going to let the whole inside line go by him. He would let Montoya go by him.
Better than the drive-through.
Well, at the time, he didn't think there would be a drive-through.
Yeah.
Canal said he thought that Montoya had spun his tires or missed a shift or something, and that Jimmy went because he thought Montoya was going to go. And when Montoya didn't go completely, it was too late for Jimmy to back off. What happened, the whole, Clint Bowyer's the key to the whole deal. If Bowyer had not slowed down, if Bowyer had not kept his position, it wouldn't have made Jimmy's jump look so bad. If Bowyer had gone with Johnson and the whole inside row had gone early,
they'd have
let him get away with it.
Yeah.
And he knows that, and Bowyer knows it, and Montoya knows it.
Now, they never did a playback from inside Montoya's car, so you could hear to listen to it.
I don't know. But Johnson said he thought he went, started to go, backed up, let me get by him, and then he went. By then, he was 10 car lengths ahead of him.
Ready for our first caller?
I've been ready.
If you're going to make it. Let's talk racing. Hello? Hello?
Hey.
Is this Walter?
Yes, it is.
It is Walter Thomas III from WT3 Racing. How you doing tonight?
Doing great, doing great.
Well, you've never been on the show before. Why don't you do a nice little quick resume so we know a little bit of something about you and can share with everybody?
Okay. Well, I'm a racer out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I currently race late models in the sportsman division. I started racing at the age of 4 in quarter midgets, gradually moving up to junior dragsters, then to Benewaros, then the legend cars. That's about it.
Short and sweet. Now, where are you racing at in the late model division out in Indiana?
I race up in Anderson Speedway.
Anderson Speedway?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Is that dirt or is it asphalt?
It's asphalt.
Okay. What do you think of the track?
Oh, that track is tremendous. It's a fast track.
Cool. Your parents support you, I hope, with everything you're doing here.
Oh, yes, most indeed. I don't know where I'd be without their support. You know, my father, my mom, grandfather, everybody. There's not one person in the family that doesn't support me. They're my biggest fan.
Now, how hard of a transition was it to go from the legends into the late models?
Probably the biggest transition was the horsepower and having a lot more on the passenger side. Just going to the full-size car feeling. But the most part, like I said, is definitely the horsepower.
Now, is there any particular thing that you like or dislike between the two that you've experienced so far?
Definitely going up to the thing I do like is the speed and the simple fact that it's a full-size car. Originally starting off, I thought by the time I was 15, I thought I'd still be in junior dragsters or the legend cars. Being able to be in a full-size car at my age, it's a dream come true already. It's unbelievable.
Now, have you tried to go down to Charlotte for the large Legends race at all, or have you not?
No, I haven't, but I have been down there to watch a few of the races, and I wish I could have raced in some of them, but the transition we made was so fast, we never got a chance to race down there.
Walter, being as young as you are and apparently pretty successful, it's probably a fact that you are, in your mind anyway, you have some sort of a timetable. You would like to be at a certain level by age 16, you'd like to be somewhere else. At 18, you'd like to be somewhere else. At 21, what is your schedule? What is your personal timetable to move up to what I assume you would like to be Sprint Cup?
Yes. My movement, I'm hoping to be able to get an invite this year down to North Carolina for the Drive for Diversity program and be able to race in a Can-Am Pro Series car by the age of 15 or 16. Then gradually moving up to hopefully within a year or two after that, Truck Series and, like you said, up to Cup, God willing.
Are you sort of looking at like 21 or 22 to be a Cup rookie, or maybe 23 or 4, or well, I guess it'll all depend on sponsorship, won't it?
Yes, money is key, and sponsorship is key in the sport. I'm hoping for around 21, 20. The younger the better.
Go get some of those young winner records that they've got out there.
Yeah, oh yeah, probably so.
It's getting harder and harder to beat.
Yeah, they're getting younger and younger.
Yeah, 18, 19. Man, they're breaking all the Jets records.
What was it? Greg Alding just had the one for the youngest pole winner.
I know Chase Elliott won the ARCA. Have you been from the Midwest, Walter? Have you thought about ARCA? Looked at ARCA? Even considered maybe doing ARCA at some point as you move up the ladder, or is it strictly NASCAR?
We thought about it, My dad went up to a few of our friends and close workers on the car, and they thought it wouldn't be too good of an idea for me to go in there. They said we should just strictly stay CRA racing. They said that'd be probably my best bet. So we thought about it, but probably just want to stay CRA.
Okay. Now, when you say CRA, I'm not quite sure I know what that is.
It's Championship Racing Association.
Oh, okay. And that's a Midwestern organization, obviously?
Yes.
Okay. Those of us down in the South realize, I think we realize, at least I do, that Ohio and Indiana and Illinois and Michigan and those places, there's a ton of weekly tracks in the Midwest that produce some awfully good racers. Do you think that you're getting the best competition there is? I mean, when you go to Anderson every weekend or every race they have, are you kind of the hot dog there? Are you the guy to beat, or are you chasing people every now and then?
It's funny you ask that. I'm not the hot dog. I'm definitely not the one being chased. I'm majority of the time chasing him. The competition, it is great up here, but the best competition is definitely North Carolina and the area around Georgia, mostly North Carolina. That's the best of the best down there.
Well, it may not. You say you're often chasing people instead of being chased. You may be aware of the story. You may not. It's an old story, but it's true. When Bill Elliott came into racing around the short tracks in Georgia, his father, George Elliott, made him start at the rear of the field almost every race. And George Elliott's idea was, I'd rather have my son learn how to come through the traffic than have people chasing him. I want him to learn how to race and not just lead. Does that make any sense? Or I've never driven a race car. I don't really know. Does that make any sense at all that you learn more from being in the pack or at the back of the field than you do up front?
It makes sense. For my past few years, my dad, when we first started off in the legend cars, he wanted me to start in the back. Not to get in anybody's way, because a lot of the people were a lot faster, had more experience. There was no point in me being up front, and I was going to end up last in a few laps. So I definitely will agree that was probably a good move. But after a while, you definitely want to probably move them up and let them qualify for his own spot, because starting in the back is not always the best, especially if you're not up to speed. You will get lapped within a few laps.
Oh yeah, I understand. But I think George Elliott's contention was that my kid Bill has got such a good car that nobody's going to catch him even starting dead last, but he'll learn more coming through traffic than he will winning the pole, leading every lap from up front. So, you talk about not being the hot dog, not being the guy that's being chased at Anderson. It might help you in the long run to be back there having to fight your way to the front.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's where most of the wrecks happen, mid-pack. So you get caught up in other people's mess, you end up tearing up your car.
Who do you look to as a role model or an inspiration? I mean, almost every race driver I've ever talked to had somebody they grew up watching. And in your case, that would be?
My dad.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. My dad was a drag racer in the early 2000s. That's really where I get my passion from. And his dad, my grandfather, was a drag racer as well. That's why sometimes you can see on my website, I'm a third generation racer. It's in my blood. It's something I love doing. It's something I wake up thinking about. And it's not, it's not taking a day that goes by while I'm not thinking about it. As well, too, in the sport, I would like, one of my bigger role models would definitely be Wendell Scott.
It may surprise you to know that I watched Wendell Scott race many times. I worked for a newspaper in Virginia, and I knew Wendell and his family and wrote about him and covered him. You could not find a better man to emulate. His driving career was not what he would have liked, but when you consider what he did with what he had and the time he did it, it was pretty amazing. He was quite spectacular. The obvious question would be then, if your grandfather and your father were straight ahead racers, why are you turning in circles? Why aren't you a drag racer?
You know, I often ask myself the same question, but it was something my dad always intended on me doing. You asked my mom, you know, back when I was in bumper cars back in Kings Island one time, he was saying that boy was going to turn left. And I started at 4.25 midgets, and that was the real test right there to see if I was able to turn laps and turn them fast. And I really don't have a memory of doing it that much, but one memory I did have, it was fun. It's just a few years ago when we got back into doing a circle track at the Virginia Dragsters, Dad was just saying, you know, I think if you're really serious about this racing deal, I think you should turn left. You know, they first brought it to my attention, you know, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're drag racers. They convinced me, showed me what we're racing, and it had a lot more horsepower behind it. Only kids wouldn't need for speed, so I tried it, and ever since then I've been hooked.
Okay.
That was a good thing for you then.
Yeah.
I was thinking if you were a drag race, if you were leaning that direction, Antron Brown would be most likely your role model, because he's had a pretty good career.
Yes.
But he is also, now I know 2 weeks ago, Antron did a K&N test at Radford, Virginia at Motor Mile, so even Antron is kind of looking to maybe do some oval track racing. So heck, who knows, maybe someday, and this will be interesting, maybe someday you and Bubba Wallace and Antron would all be in the same NASCAR race. And that would certainly set records of all kinds, and it might convince people in the South, you know what, this sport is for everybody. It's just not for the white guy who works in the back of his garage. It can be for everybody, and that'd be a pretty good lesson for you to help get across, that this sport is for everybody and not just the people down here that we think should be in racing.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, that's good. Well, have you met Bubba Wallace? Have you ever talked to him and gotten any of his ideas on what he's going through?
Yeah, I met him down in Florida last year. We both were receiving awards on the same day down in Daytona at the racetrack. I spoke to him for a little bit. He probably doesn't remember it that much, but I spoke to him a little bit, talking about, you know, how good the discovery was and some of the stuff I could learn from him, some of the things you could pass on to a newcomer. Mm-hmm. He gave me a little bit of advice. He just said, you know, seem like you're really passionate about the sport. Just keep going. Just keep doing your thing, and, you know,
Hang on a second.
it'll come.
Yeah, it will. And I've told people, again, I've been a journalist. I've been covering racing now for 45 years, so I've seen everybody and talked to everybody just about. All it takes is one break. All it takes is for one person to see you at the right time doing the right thing. Clint Boyer got noticed by Richard Childress one time, and that got him a ride. David Gilliland got noticed one time by doing well at one race. And that's really all it takes, to do really well at the right time in front of the right people, and you'll hook right on. You'll go right up the ladder.
Yeah, that's why it's always important to do your best. You never know who's watching you.
Exactly. Now, let me give you one more piece of advice. Anytime a reporter walks up to you, or a cameraman, or a guy with a video camera, anytime a media person wants to talk to you, what's the first thing you do?
Thanks for sponsors.
You take off your sunglasses. I'm serious. Believe me, son, I've been doing this a long time, And nothing insults a writer, nothing insults a cameraman more than talking to a driver who's hiding behind sunglasses. Carl Edwards takes them off. The guys who are really PR conscious take them off. Somebody told me one day, well, Richard Petty doesn't take his off. My answer was, well, when you've won 200 races and 7 championships, you can wear your sunglasses too. But until you get to that point, just remember this. And someday I'll meet you on a racetrack somewhere. I'll introduce myself and I'll say, I reminded you in June of 2013 that when you're doing interviews with the media, just take off your sunglasses. It's the best way in the world to make a friend. Okay?
Okay, I remember that.
I'm serious. Remember it. All right.
You want to go ahead and thank your sponsors real quick, and we'll let you get out of here, and we'll get our next person on.
I want to thank Mac Tools. I want to thank Mark-Ann Full Speed, Anna Marie. She's helped me throughout this whole year so far with marketing and getting ready for interviews like this today. I want to thank my mom, my dad, grandfather, of course. If not, he'll probably get mad. I just want to thank God for everything. I just want to thank you guys for having me on today.
Glad to do it. Glad you're on. Remember, no sunglasses.
I remember that.
All right. Don't forget.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Next up, we have Doug Newell on the phone. Works for BK Racing, a fueler on the number 93, I believe it was. And also responsible for most of the wiring inside those cars.
Is he on?
Also correct.
Oh, there he is.
Was that Doug?
That is also correct.
So if anything starts smoking under the hood and it ain't related to gas, then they come looking for you, right?
That would unfortunately be true as well.
All right, Doug, tell us a few things about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you get into racing? Age? Give us the whole 1-minute biography so we'll know who we're talking to.
My life in a nutshell. Originally from Southern California. Got hooked in racing going to Saugus Speedway on Saturday night. And it was just something that I felt the draw to do, and started working locally. Actually drove a car at Outscott for a couple of years down on the dirt track, and got involved in the Southwest Tour, was a crew chief with Mike Hankey, and just kind of kept moving my way up the ranks to Southwest Tour, and eventually had an opportunity to move to North Carolina. And I did that in 1997. And since '97, I've lived out here, and I've worked in the Cup Series.
Okay, so you say Southern California. What part specifically?
Ventura County. I'm born and raised in Oxnard.
Oh, okay. So you're a Laker fan or a Clippers fan?
I would be a Lakers fan.
Southern Cal or UCLA?
Are we playing football?
Yeah, football. Yeah.
Yeah, football. I'd be a USC guy.
Okay. And the other one would be Dodgers or Angels?
Dodgers.
Okay. Yeah, you passed the test. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
In-N-Out Burger or Five Guys?
Definitely In-N-Out.
There you go. You're my guy, man.
I'm just gonna have to go out one time to the West Coast.
You're good to go. Well, you can get them in Texas now.
Why don't you just bring me home one next time?
I'm not going to bring you. You got to have it fresh. You got to have it right there in the store when they bring you the. Anyway,
see what strange conversations we get into, Doug.
Yeah, this is fun.
Well, but people get tired of talking about racing. They want to hear about other stuff. Now, you work for BK Racing, which is sort of a Burger King type operation, but not specifically, I guess. How'd you get hooked up with those guys?
It's always in the sport who you know, and at the beginning of this year last year, when they were forming the nucleus of their team, one of their crew chiefs there was Doug Richard.
Oh yeah, know Doug very well.
Yeah, and Doug and I had worked together before at Roush, and I was, unfortunately, like a lot of people in the sport at the time, unemployed, and Doug said, hey, we need a wiring guy and we need a gas man. So gave me a call, and we made that connection.
Now, I think this year, I believe I'm correct. This year is second year. I'm sorry. This year is the second year with the new gas can configuration. Or is this the third year that y'all have used a slightly different form of the gas can?
We eliminated the catch can, man.
Right. 2 or 3 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, 2010, I think, was the first year without them.
Okay.
Schultz came with their single point.
Right.
System, and
Did you ever gas cars using the old can, the old big can, the big lucky can?
I've been fueling since 2000.
Okay.
500 and 2000 was my first race, so
Okay.
I've looked quite a few of them.
All right. And I'm going to ask a question that I think a lot of our listeners and viewers would like to ask, but they can't because they're not here. So I'll do it.
Right.
Is it more difficult, as I've been told by some gas guys, is it more difficult gassing now than it was, say, 5 years ago because the equipment is so different?
I would say a little bit, yes. The accuracy that you have to have when you plug the can into the car with new stuff has to be a whole lot more accurate to be straight. The old stuff just it had more room for misalignment, and you could still flow fuel, but now you have an O-ring that separates the fuel going in and the air coming out. And if you get just a little bit crooked, it'll lift that O-ring and it'll just short cycle that fuel. Instead of going in, it'll get picked up by the air coming the other way and go right back to the can. So nowadays, you just have to be a little more precise with what we do.
Have you, and if you haven't, you can tell us you haven't, doesn't matter. If you have, you can tell us that. Have you had an instance during a race where you really botched it, or have you been pretty good on the new system?
Let's see. Knock on wood. I'm pretty good with it. I have had an incident a couple weeks ago, actually, at Darlington, where the car left with a can in it, and it was my first race with the 93. A little internal moving around. I had been with the 83, so I wasn't really familiar with Travis. And Travis launches out of the pits a whole lot harder than David Rudiman does. So we dropped the jack, and I'm expecting to just stay plugged in and move with the car like I always have with David. And Travis, it's like lights out. When the jack drops, he's gone. And I go to yank the can out, and it's on its way down. Actually, fortunately for me, I took a swipe at it and knocked it out of the car before it left the pit box, but it was definitely headed down pit road. So I've had my moments.
Did that make the ESPN highlight? Oh, that was been Fox, I guess. Did that make the Fox highlight film? Do you know if they had that on TV that night?
No, actually, a friend of mine that fuels the 55 car had a issue similar to mine, only his actually stayed in the car. So he was the highlight, not me, fortunately.
Okay, good for you. Now, the other thing I want to ask you about, and I don't mean to monopolize the conversation, but Roger's over here busy doing stuff. People may not understand, some fans may not understand the complexity involved with the wiring system in a Sprint Cup car. Did it become exponentially more complex with fuel injection, or did that not affect it at all?
I'm going to answer that in two parts because it's a yes and no answer. The yes part is it definitely is a lot more complex. Just the data that we have an ECU now, an engine control unit.
Right.
The data that the ECU has to gather from all around different sensors in the car so that it can tell the fuel injectors what to do. That is totally leaps and bounds beyond what we're used to. That's the yes part of the answer. The no part of the answer, for me, is that we don't get to play with any of that. So we get a wiring harness that has a couple of 64-pin connectors that they screw into the ECU, and all the sensors screw into a block in the firewall, and that part is really simple. So as a wiring guy, there's a lot of stuff going on, but we don't get to play with all of it. We just have to lay it in the car and make sure it's in the right place, and take care of it, make sure that it gets maintained properly and it doesn't get cut or nicked or chafed, and those kind of things. If
something goes wrong, say during a race, something gets nicked or chafed or whatever, are you permitted to change any of the wiring, or does the entire unit have to be changed at one time? Or could you change it?
Yeah, I was going to say you could change any of the wiring that you needed to, but as you know, the harness itself is in a huge bundle, and to try to pick through, and find the offending wire, it would just be so much faster just to pull the whole harness out of the car and put a new harness in its place.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
replace an ECU or any other part that you think is the cause of a problem.
Okay. Now, let me ask you one question that I truly hope you don't take offense to this. If you do, you can simply say so. You work for a team that a good day for you guys is top 20, top 25 maybe?
Yep.
And I'm not denigrating what you do because, gosh, top 25 is still a lot of work and a lot of effort. Is it sometimes difficult to go to a racetrack knowing that the best you're going to be is between 20th and 28th or 29th? If you really have a great day, you'll be between 15th and 20th. Is it tough to do that, or do you accept that as part of the getting better process, that the challenge is to get better?
I would say the latter on what you said. I've had the really great fortune in this sport to have been on some great teams in my career.
That's what I was going to say. You know what it's like on the other side.
Right. I've been to Victory Lane about 25 times. I have a championship ring with Kurt Busch, and it's a different challenge when you're at that level. And at our level, where we're starting to come in with our owner Ron Devine, just like 16 months ago we formed our team. So we're still really in our infancy. So to see the strides that we're making and the growth that we're having, it's really gratifying, actually. If we were to measure success or measure happiness on our team based on wins and losses only, you'd think we'd all be suicidal. But come in and say, a year ago we barely could get here, and now we've got, a backup car, and we've got parts and pieces to race with, and, in all aspects of it, our pit crew has some depth to it. Our testing program we actually have now. A year ago we couldn't even go test because we barely had enough stuff to race. So, we had our first wind tunnel date a couple weeks ago. So yeah, at times it can be disappointing or frustrating to know that we probably week in and week out don't have a car that can win the race, but to be able to see the progress that our team is making and know that our owner is committed to it and wants to grow this thing, and hopefully one day we'll be one of those teams.
Yeah, my last question would be this. When you look at what happened at Talladega, when two cars that nobody thought could win finished 1-2, by that I mean David Reagan and David Gilliland, you must look at that day and say to yourself, you know what? We can do that.
On any given Sunday.
That must have been quite a, I don't want to say morale booster for a team that struggles, but it must give you hope that, you know what? If that crowd can do it, we can do it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Phil Martin that you'll run sometime during the day dead last. Sometimes you'll lead, and it's all about the draft.
Right.
Positioning yourself right, and they did. They were smart how they raced, and they were in the right place at the right time. And yeah, we could do that too.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And let me say one more thing. You just mentioned a driver with which you won a championship ring. He may not be the easiest guy in the world to live with, but I'll tell you what, Kurt Busch is a race car driver from start to finish.
Yep. And if we had more time, I could tell you some stories about how great he is. Like, he's really committed to his team and his guys, and I'd have to say he really took really good care of us when we worked for him.
His PR man, Dave Ferroni, PR man now, tells me that the crew loves him because even though he will throw a fit and have a meltdown in the hauler after a race occasionally, he very quickly understands that we're in this together, and he takes care of his 78 crew. That they really like him, not just because he's running well, but because even when he has a bad night or a bad day and strikes out at them briefly, he very quickly kind of gets himself under control. And it would not surprise anybody if that team won a race this year.
I totally expect it. I'm actually more surprised that it hasn't happened already.
Well, they had the All-Star race wouldn't have counted, but he ran awfully well in the All-Star race, and then he ran awfully well in the 600. But I think he knows, and I think Barney Visser knows that the crew, they need a little better pit stops, maybe a little bit better race management, because when you put him in a car that'll go to the front, he'll take it to the front and leave it there all night if he can. So.
Yep.
Anyway, listen, I appreciate your time, and again, I hope you weren't offended by me saying that you're with a team that can't win, because obviously you are. Your team can win. It's just a matter of when it will happen, when it will come together, and I'll bet you Victory Lane next time for you might even be better than the other 20 sometimes you've been there.
I believe you're correct. It will be.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you calling in. We always like to talk to crew guys because we talk to drivers a lot and crew chiefs a lot. And the crew guys, if it weren't for you guys, there wouldn't be anybody out there on Sunday afternoon.
That's what we keep trying to tell them, but they don't believe it.
Stay home one weekend and show them.
Exactly.
All right, y'all have a good weekend up in Michigan.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
You know, what he should have said was, when I asked him what was better, Five Guys or In-N-Out Burger, you know what he should have said? Burger King.
Yep.
I mean, that's his sponsor.
Correct. Right?
Right?
I'll have to tell
we have
him
to
that
get him
later.
on that, yeah.
We'll say, don't call the boss now, you're in trouble. All right, you ready for Brayton?
I guess. Why don't you ask a question or two?
I did the first one. Hey, Brayton, how you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Hey, I'll do the easy part. Give us a little quick rundown, since this is your first time on the show, of a quick resume on yourself.
I grew up in Iowa. I started racing kid karts on dirt when I was 5 years old. And from then on, I raced dirt go-karts since I was 11, then moved to a Bandolero. I raced 40 races in that, and that made me eligible to race a legend car when I was 12 years old. And so from legend car to now I'm racing a limited late model at Anchorage Motor Speedway. And all my races, I've got podium finishes so far.
Top 3.
Pretty good.
Rock and roll.
And you're what, 14 years old now?
Yes, sir, 14.
Gosh.
He's
I've
a
got
little scrawny
I got
sucker.
shoes that old. My dog is that old. And she's really old. We asked another young driver earlier, Brayton, the same thing I'm going to ask you, and I'm sure everybody does it. You must have written down somewhere a timetable or a schedule for when you want to be in Sprint Cup, whether it's age 19, 20, 25, or whatever. Give us, if you don't mind, what you see as your step-by-step up the ladder to get to Sprint Cup. Where do you hope to be on certain milestones?
I would say in about a year or two, I would probably be racing the K&N Series. And then after that, hopefully we get a couple sponsors. After that, hopefully make my way up to Nationwide and Sprint Cup Series.
But by what, like 21, like 5 or 6 years, or 7 years, or have you ever really looked at a number like that?
I haven't really looked at it yet, but I probably will here soon, just to see when I will get up there, or if I will get up there. Right now, we're just really focused on doing good at the age I am, getting some sponsors, and hopefully getting some top 5 finishes at some of the big races that we're going to.
Now, do you race strictly at Hickory, or are there other places in Carolina that you go to?
Right now, we're racing strictly at Hickory. July 4th, I'm going to be racing at Myrtle Beach, and then the November race, I'm going to be racing at Myrtle Beach in the late model series. So yeah, we're going to step up from the limited, going to the late models, and hopefully see how we can do there.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck at one racetrack and dominating there, because you'll never get a whole lot better. You need to branch out, and I'm sure your family's told you this. You need to branch out some and race at other places, other tracks, to learn how to get around other tracks and get around other guys who are maybe somewhat older than you are, maybe a little bit better, but you learn from people who are better. You don't learn from people who are worse.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay. That's my speech for the day.
You're sticking to it?
Now it's your turn.
Now it's my turn. Now, did you find it much of a transition between the different cars?
Oh, definitely. The late model, it has power steering. You don't really get on the brakes as hard. And then from the legend car to the late model, that was a big transition, because the legend car doesn't have power steering, and basically you have to have a lot of throttle control, and you have to smash the brakes going in the corner. When the late model, you just go in the corner, has power steering, you barely get on the brakes, and you have to have a lot of throttle control on that too. So basically, yeah, it was a big step for me from going to the legend car to the late model. Just got to thank my parents for getting me there.
Now, you say you were born and reared in you lived part of your life in Iowa. At what point did your family decide that if we're going to pursue this NASCAR career, we need to go to Carolina? How long have you lived in Carolina now?
I would say 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
I moved down here from Iowa when I was 7 years old, and I was just racing kid karts.
Okay.
Purple plate in the dirt series.
And growing up in Iowa, who were the NASCAR drivers or open wheel drivers? I don't know. Who were the drivers that you most looked up to growing up? What drivers did you most think you'd like to be like?
Well, I looked up to my father because he raced go-karts before me and my sister were born, and he was about to get into a sprint car, and then my mom had my sister, so I really looked up to my dad for my racing career.
But isn't there a NASCAR driver somewhere that you say, man, I'd like to be like that person?
Oh, yes, sir, definitely. Jimmy Johnson is one of my biggest role models.
Okay.
He has a lot of championships. He has a lot of wins under his belt. He's just, in my description, I think Jimmy Johnson is the best driver in NASCAR right now.
Well, he's also a good guy. You know, I mean, all of the accolades, the wins and poles and championships are good, but the important thing is he's a good guy, and that's probably more important than anything else. Being around Hickory, though, you're right in the middle of stock car country. Do you ever go out and watch other people race? Do you ever go to tracks that, when Hickory's not running, for example, do you ever go out and watch other people and just kind of see what other guys are doing and see if you've got to maybe step up your game a little bit?
I have went down to South Boston a couple times. I was watching Lee Pulliam.
Oh, yeah.
Race down there at South Boston. But usually my dad says that we're not going to a racetrack to watch. We're basically going to race.
Okay. Now, what comes first, your race car or your homework?
Homework, definitely.
Good. That's good. I'm trying to think of now you're on late models now at Hickory. Now is that late model car legal? For example, at Daytona back in February, they had a race on the backstretch called the Battle of the Beach, and they had late models there. Was your car Daytona legal, or will it be next year maybe, or do you know yet?
I'm not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be next year, hopefully.
Yeah, you should try to run down there.
Yes, sir.
That's a pretty good place to meet a bunch of good late model guys.
Yeah, I watched it this year. It looks like an awesome track to race at. Definitely a lot of competition there, and me racing there will definitely get my experience level up.
Well, just be careful if you're running in front of Kyle Larson, because he'll turn you around. He'll turn you around in a heartbeat.
Yes, sir.
So now, but you're running, if I remember correctly, a limited late model right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. do you think you're going to be moving up to regular late models at Hickory, or you think you're just going to stay with the limited for now?
Eventually we're going to move up, but I think my 5th, I'm racing this weekend at Hickory. It's going to be my 5th race. So hopefully we can do good there next week. And hopefully just later on just see how it goes. And hopefully move up to a late model.
Well, good. I mean, you always want to continuously try to keep getting higher up in class as you go, and as long as you're still doing podium finishes. But like Al said a while ago, you definitely need to start thinking about getting out and venturing out to the other tracks. And whether it's another high bank track or try to find yourself a nice flat track, the flat track you're going to find out is really going to be where you're going to get your education.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing to you that I say to a lot of teenage drivers, a lot of young drivers. And this is a pet peeve of mine. As a journalist, as a writer, it offends me when I go talk to a young driver or an old driver and they leave their sunglasses on. I'm just giving you a piece of advice from an old journalist. If a reporter comes up to you with a notebook or a tape recorder, or a cameraman walks up to you for an interview, the first thing you do is take off your sunglasses. Put them on top of your hat if you want to. I don't care where you put them, but it is kind of, it's disconcerting is the word, to talk to a race driver who's hiding behind sunglasses, because his eyes may be saying one thing and his mouth may be saying something else. You can make a lot of friends and earn a ton of respect by just simply taking off your sunglasses when you do interviews. And that's, I think maybe if you look at NASCAR drivers who do that, Carl Edwards is the prime example. Carl does that better than anybody. The ones who don't do it are drivers I don't particularly think much of, Tony Stewart being one. But anyway, it's just a piece of advice from an old writer who has been watching this stuff for a long time, and you'll make friends by doing that.
Yes, sir. And Carl Edwards, I think he's one of the most respected drivers out there, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you said, he shows respect to his fans and all the media people when they talk to him, and just not disrespectful, like you're saying about leaving your sunglasses on.
Yep. And I told the other young man earlier on the program, somebody told me one day on one of these conversations, well, Richard Petty leaves his sunglasses on. And I said, yeah, son, when you've won 200 races and 7 championships, you can leave your sunglasses on too. But until you do, take them off.
Yes, sir.
All right? Thank all your sponsors. Thank your crew. You got about a minute and a half to say whatever you want to say.
Definitely like to thank my mom and dad, and I know Sunday's Father's Day. Just want to shout out to all the fathers that all help their kids in racing or whatever hobby they do, just for all they do, and definitely my dad for all he does for my racing career, mechanical HVAC services, Lee Falk Racing, and my whole family basically. And next year we're going to be traveling with Lee Falk Racing. I just found that out.
Well, is that a tour? And I know Lee Falk. I know he was a driver and an owner. Does he take late models to different tracks, or is he basically just in the Carolina area?
Well, I think next year we're going to be going down to Florida to race at New Smyrna, and then like I said, Myrtle Beach. I think mostly it's going to be in NC, but we're also going to travel around a lot. So yeah, we're going to travel around a lot in the late model. That will, like you said, that will get my experience up. But I just got to watch out, like you said.
Okay, be careful. Do your homework. Be nice to your parents, and take your sunglasses off. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And at the end of the straightaway, turn left.
Right.
That's very important. Okay. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, it is.
Yep. Doug said you didn't give him that option about Burger King. Burgers.
Oh, well, I thought he would jump in there and
I know.
volunteer.
I'll give him a hard time later.
Okay.
Everybody, we enjoyed having y'all with us.
Speaking of Burger King, we're not going to Burger King, are we?
What, you want to go to Burger King?
No, I don't. I
Oh,
want to
okay.
go to. I want to go to Ruby's.
I want to go to Ruby's.
I'm hungry.
All right. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Al, we'll see you back on the 17th of next month.
Sometime.
Be out there traveling all over the world here lately.
Yeah.
See ya. All right.
Hey guys, I'm Daytona 500 winner Trevor Bain, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing.
Hi, I'm Robert Richardson Jr., driver of the number 23 Dodge Challenger for R3 Motorsports in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, and you're watching Let's Talk Racing.
I'm Timothy Peters, driver of the number 17 Toyota NASCAR Camp World Truck Series, and you're listening to Let's Talk Racing.
Here's your 2011 champion, David Brayton.
Hi, this is David Polens, driver of the 33 NASCAR Late Model, 2011 Old Dominion Speedway Track Champion. Thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing TV.
I'm Sam Hunt, drive the 42 car on the thing Let's Talk Racing.
Hi, my name is Natalie Sather. I drive the 94 K&N Lady Eagle Safety. We're